Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heitz. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Daniel J. and myself, another episode here. You guys know the drill on this Thanksgiving Eve. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are looking forward to tomorrow. There's 3 football games tomorrow as well that are honestly kind of sleep fest until the last one. But that's what we're going to be talking about here. We're going to be talking about football. And there's a lot to talk about. And we're going to be, probably different points at different times. We'll kind of cover base. You guys can let us know what you think. But good to see you guys in the chat. George, Jared Devil as always, Afton as always, Steeler fan as always. Good to see you guys. Anybody tuning in that's not in the chat, feel free to put something in there. Daniel, welcome back to the show. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about, but how's your week been as we're in the middle part of it so far?
It's been not it's been not bad, my man. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's been all right. Big news. Matt Canada is no longer the offensive coordinator. Kind of happy about that, I guess. I guess you can say that I'm maybe a little bit disappointed, not necessarily because he's gone, but because, the options there were bench Kenny Pickett or fire the offensive coordinator. And so I'm more of, I guess, kind of down on the fact that they're probably not going to bench Kenny Pickett, with this type of news. You know what I'm saying? So that's the part that's kind of like got me maybe a little bit like, kind of like, all right, it is what it is. Is it a move that the Steelers needed to make? Yes. Or one of those two needed to be made, whether it was, benching Kenny Pickett or if it was firing the offense coordinator. There needed to be a spark. Something needed to happen. And here we are.
Yeah. And I think that this was a long time coming. I said it last year, and I still stand by it. Matt Canada never should have came back. I stand by that fact. He is not he is inept. He is not a qualified NFL play caller by any means. This guy has been the common denominator for the last 3 years of struggle on Steelers offense. Has it only been him? Of course not. There has been lack of talent. There has been poor quarterback play across the board. We all know this, but he is the common denominator at the end of the day. He has not had a 400-yard game ever in his tenure. They have not had a 300-yard game they have not had a 300-yard passing game in forever. They've just started to get the ball running, which they haven't been able to do. They average 15 points a game, and it gets worse and worse and worse. Somebody had to be on the chopping block, and it was him. But what I'm going to say is this was not only did this need to happen, but this is something that is a breath of fresh air to the players. No question about it. The players are sick and tired of it. The players are sick and tired of the staleness in the offense. Sure, quarterback, blame is on the quarterback. We'll get into that later, but right now we're going to focus on Matt Canada and everything that has transpired. Claudia, what's up? Appreciate you tuning in. Jennifer, hello. Afton, yep, see you guys. Give us your thoughts. What are your guys' thoughts on the Canada firing? Do you guys agree with it? Would you rather have seen a quarterback switch than the OC getting fired? Do you think it was the right move? What do you think? How do you think things will look like, et cetera, et cetera? But this is a breath of fresh air. This is something the players needed. They needed a new voice. They needed Mike Tomlin needed to do something, because I truly believe this was a move because the locker room was starting to waver a little bit. And I really think that is a big part in it. But something needed to happen. Like you said, Daniel, a spark needed to happen one way or another. And Matt Canada is gone. And like I said, needed to happen. But I think that this is a big weight off the back. This is something where there can be some new voices, some new ideas, a new mindset in there. Yes, we all know that it is not going to change the grand scheme of things this year as you're this late in the year. But we'll talk about that. But I was actually surprised when this happened. I did not expect the Steelers to do this. I thought they were just going to stick with everything that's been going on and they're just going to ride the wave. But this is the first time the Steelers have made a coaching change midseason since 1941.
Yeah.
Since 1941. And that is absolutely insanity. And I also find encouragement because not only have the Steelers done a couple things that is against really what they're known for this past year, but they have finally fired a coach midseason that they never do. And it really might just be okay. There's a catalyst of change here where we've seen it with management. We've seen it with the draft. We've seen it with free agent signings and certain money that you're putting elsewhere, contract extensions that you don't normally see. And now we see a coach being fired midseason. So it really, they might not be sticking with the typical Steelers status quo the way we're used to it. You might maybe see some things like this start to happen every now and then, or like, let me put it this way. Like they're not it doesn't seem like they're in the sense of living in their prehistoric ages that we've known them as. Like things actually kind of seem like there might be a change of the guard a little bit. And we saw that this offseason. We're seeing it now. So at least it feels good that like Rooney's not just sticking with what he always has. That makes sense. They did something different that they never do. And that's fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I think it should have been done in the bye week. And I hate the optics behind it.
Yeah.
You know, I really do. I hate the optics behind it because how many times have the Pittsburgh Steelers beat a team like the Cleveland Browns or the Baltimore Ravens or the Cincinnati Bengals, and the following day a coach is fired or an assistant is fired. And that's something that we would laugh at. You know, like, hey, we got another one fired.
Yeah.
And now the Browns can say that they caused the Pittsburgh Steelers to fire a coordinator for the first time. And
hey, you know what, Cleveland, if that's what you relish in, if that's what you relish in, congratulations. Really, congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, what else can they relish in, though? What else? What else do they have to show?
A favor. You're doing a Steelers a favor.
But yeah, you know, they have nothing else to show for. So I guess you're right. They can laugh. They can do their thing.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. But I agree, Daniel. If there was going to be a time like they let the leash go on for too long. If they had an idea that if things were not going to get better, we're going to have to make a move. Things weren't getting better come the middle of the year, like you said.
Right. No. And there's definitely a lot of issues when it comes to Matt Canada. There's a lot of predictability.
Absolutely.
You know, in the play calls and the timing was, but there's also what's also bad is the personnel. You know, when the Pittsburgh Steelers were in it in the last, drive or so, in the last fourth quarter, Jaylen Warren wasn't. Yeah. Why wasn't he there?
Right.
You know, right. Is that going to be something that's going to change, or are we going to see Najee Harris, still in those situations?
Right. I hear you. 100%. Because you see a guy like Warren run the ball. Why is he finishing the game with 9 carries?
Right. But is that a Matt Canada call? I don't think personnel is a Matt Canada call.
Well, it might not be, but the fact that from what we know, he's the guy that has most hands-on offensively, even if there's times Tomlin comes in, even if there's times where they want Glenn Thomas or Mike Sullivan, whoever to give 2 cents or to have any kind of influence. At the end of the day, he had most of the baggage with the offense. He was the most hands-on. He was the most involved with players and everything like that. And from what we saw in the Cleveland game, Daniel, I mean, it had to be the last straw. Like, I don't know how if there's any Steeler fan out there that was okay with what they watched Sunday. I mean, I don't even know how you're a fan. No. I don't know how you're a fan. If you're a Steeler fan that watched what you watched on Sunday and said, it's okay, we lost, on to the next week, I don't know how you sit there with a straight face and look yourself in the mirror.
Right. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that something had to have happened. It was one or two things.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to, at any point this year, even if Kenny Pickett still continues to struggle, and even if there is an opportunity for the Steelers to make a move or make it, a run into the playoffs just based off of the strength of schedule that they have or the lack thereof. I think that, Kenny Pickett's going to be the guy this year. We're going to see what he has. I think all the pressure's on him. There's no more excuse. There's no more scapegoat.
Yeah.
All the pressure's there. Let's see what he can do. I don't know if this move is going to fix some of the issues that he's having, but if it doesn't and he can't become better than what he is, then I think the Steelers need to make they have a decision to make in the offseason.
Yeah.
So I'm for the move. There was no way that they weren't going to give Kenny another opportunity without Matt Canada. Now, I don't know if this is a fair opportunity, seven games, but I think that if he doesn't show any progress, if he continues to stay exactly the same, I think then that is a decision that you have to make in the offseason. Mm-hmm. So I'm, like I said, I think that it's a move that needed to be made. I wish it was made sooner. I wish it was made in the bye week.
Right.
And if it's something needs to happen, but Tara Lawson is being considered for, I think it's the Syracuse job, one of the colleges as a head coach. Yep. And then you have Matt Canada obviously gone. So this could be, or this will be possibly a complete overhaul.
Yeah. It very well could be. And you know what? It's needed. It's needed. Yeah. Enough is enough, dude, of the hiring withins. Enough is enough of putting everything in Mike Tomlin's hands in the sense of him just sticking with guys that are around him. And I have a feeling the Steelers are going to do their due diligence on guys outside this organization who have had success with current defenses, with current offenses. I actually think that they're going to do that. I think with the firing of Canada, it not working out again from a hire within, Randy Fiechner wasn't really anything good. They moved on from him rather quickly. I think that they're going to do their homework. I really do. I think that they're not going to just stick with the status quo. And I hope that's the case that they don't, because you need fresh ideas. You need a turnover on different areas of your offense and defense, and you need to find guys out there, interview guys, bring guys in, get a feel for what's out there, and really highly consider guys from elsewhere rather than just what's in your organization, because clearly what's in your organization ain't getting the job done.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, though. Let's just say Kenny Pickett plays the same. The Steelers try to go outside of the organization to bring somebody in. Do you think that person's going to want to fix Kenny Pickett, or do you think that person's going to want to?
That's a good question, too. So if we're going to talk about an offensive coordinator next year, that's a great question. I can't answer that. I don't really think anybody can ultimately give an answer because they don't have the candidates. I think we'll probably be able to get a better idea once the offseason comes and when they start talking to guys and stuff like that. But yeah, that's a great question. Would somebody want to come in if Kenny's struggling, he doesn't finish the year well? Do they want to come in and try to work with him? And then if things don't work out, it makes them look bad, right? Different things like that. Or would somebody just be like, hey, I'm willing to come in, but I think we need a fresh start. I don't know. I think it really just depends. But with the Matt Canada thing, definitely caught me by surprise. I did not expect it to happen. I think everybody was pretty set that they're just going to roll with what they roll with, regardless of how miserable it is to watch or not. But we all knew something had to happen. And
hey, give me 1 second, man. I'm having some problems with my headphones.
Okay.
I'll be right back. I'm going to switch them out real quick.
Yeah, go ahead. You're good. Well, guys, while Daniel switches out his headphones, I want to know your guys' thoughts here, and I'm going to read them and see what you guys are saying. Did you guys expect this to happen? Do you think it was going to be the status quo, that they were just going to keep rolling what they had? How frustrated were you guys on Sunday watching that game, watching them put up 10 points and just an abysmal performance from the quarterback, from not being wide receivers not being productive? Matt Canada play calling was horrific. Other than Jaylen Warren, it wasn't good. So I want to know your guys' thoughts on that, but it definitely caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting that to happen. Folks saying Steelers Freak, folks saying give KP till next year because the playbook. Offensive players aren't going to wait that long if he doesn't improve quickly, and I don't blame them. It's their livelihood. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, and especially in today's NFL, it's hard to have patience. A lot of teams they want production more quickly than not, and we've seen over the years guys develop at different rates, different times. But with quarterback, with that being your most important position, it's hard for teams to have patience for. If you're not really seeing much after year 2 of having your quarterback that you hope would turn into something, it's hard to sit and wait and be like, all right, let's give it year 3. All right, let's give it year 4. Like, you're ultimately wasting talent. You're ultimately wasting everybody's time at the end of the day. It's different if like Kenny's playing in a way where he's doing good things and we're seeing that on the field and he's hitting throws, but we know he's being held back by coaching. That's different. Kenny came in this year, which a lot of us were hoping, expected him probably to do, to be better than what we saw last year, to take a step forward, to make plays, to be a productive player more than not, but probably be held back by the coaching. I think that was the most likely expectation. Didn't expect that firing. Kenny's playing no confidence at all. No, he's playing scared, man. He looks terrified out there. He looks terrified. And I don't know if he just doesn't have the confidence himself. I don't know if he's been told to do certain things. I don't know. Najee's a team leader. Yes, he is. Warren's the most offensive yards to the team. It's telling they have to bring in some real competition. And I've said that too, Claudia. I was like, look, if they're going to stick with Kenny next year, I definitely see them bringing in a Gardner Minshew or somebody, a low-end starter, high-end backup type player to push him and to bring him competition. Maybe they would draft a quarterback in the middle of the round if they decide to stick with him going into next year. I think Charlie Batch called Rooney cheap, had something to do with it. Well, Rooney's kind of, other than this happening, Rooney's just kind of seemed like he's been somebody that's just kind of just stood there and has just kind of let everything play out. So at least good on him for acting on this and realize, this ain't okay. The AFC's wide open this year. Almost any team can compete with each other in the AFC. You got to take advantage, and the Steelers aren't. But yeah, Daniel. So with Matt Canada not being on the sideline Sunday, I think Sunday's a big game. What do you think? I'm not saying Sunday is a must-win game necessarily, but I think it's a big game in the sense of Canada's gone. Let's see what not difference. I'm not saying what difference and all this change and stuff like that. But what are maybe some things that we're going to see that we can see and be like, okay, they didn't do that. Or, okay, they're doing this at this point in time. They wouldn't normally do that. Like just even little details that we see throughout the game. So with Sunday, I personally think it's a big game given the fact of Canada getting fired, storyline this week, the bad loss last week to the Browns. How can you bounce back? How big of a game do you think Sunday is with everything going on?
Well, I mean, it's a huge game. I mean, just for the fact that it's a divisional game,
Absolutely.
it's a divisional opponent. The Steelers lost the game. They're at 6-4. They're still in the wild card hunt for, playoff position. It's going to be tough though. It's a team that they've had an extended look since they played on Thursday night. Now, obviously they're going up, they've lost their quarterback. However, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense hasn't always done so well with new quarterbacks in there. In fact, I can't remember the name of the quarterback, but it was the Bengals who beat us with a no-name QB. I don't remember it. There it is. I couldn't even remember his name. Yep. And so, that kind of worries me a little bit. If he had like a game or two of tape on him and the Steelers got at least that amount, I think they can scheme it up pretty good. But that concerns me. But I mean, he's a backup for a reason. He should be contained. But this game is going to be big for a lot of different reasons. It's going to be big for that. It's also going to be big because this is, the first game outside of Matt Canada. Was he the problem? Everybody in the world is saying that he's the problem. His route trees are bad. His, when he calls the plays are bad. The playbook is good. That's the new one this year here recently because the running game picked up. The playbook is all right. He just doesn't know when to call plays, which is kind of true. I'm not going to deny that there's an issue there. But there's also a big issue with the quarterback. Now, I don't know if you saw his press conference today. He didn't seem too
I
happy
didn't watch it.
with the loss of Matt Canada. He seemed like he seemed kind of like. I mean, he didn't look like he was sad or he lost his puppy or anything, but he wasn't. He didn't appear to be happy about it. And it's a new scheme or a new. You're gonna have to keep the same playbook, but basically a new philosophy. Maybe perhaps what I'm hoping we're gonna see is the Steelers stick to something that works.
Right.
Not leave. Like for instance, Jaylen Warren. He's got the hot hand. He's doing well. Leave him in there. Let's get him 25 touches. If he's doing that well, let's give him 25 touches. Imagine what he could do with 25 touches. He's getting 100 plus on 9. I mean, even if you took off that one big run that he had, I believe the rest of the runs, he was averaging 6.7 yards a carry. And if you did the same thing for Najee and took off the one big run he had, I think he was at a little bit over a yard.
So, sounds about right.
You know what I mean? It's not good. It's not good because I think he had like 30 some yards, and I think the one big run he had was like 17, so he may have had like 12 or 15, but he was averaging 1 yard per carry. And I don't know. I just think that Naj put this all out there, right? He put this in motion. He said that, the other team knows our plays. All right. They've gotten rid of the coordinator. Do you think that this could hurt Naj to a certain extent where you have the running backs coach who's now the offensive coordinator? He's going to be coordinating the game plan. So I'm hoping that includes personnel. And, he knows those guys better than anybody else. You would assume that he would know or see that Warren has been the better back. I think everybody can see that.
Yeah.
I think Naj loses some touches. What do you think?
He has to. I don't think it's a 50-50, 60-40 split anymore. Jaylen Warren has earned the number one running back spot. Just like Joey Porter has earned his starting spot, just like Keanu Benton has earned a starting spot, just like Broderick Jones has earned a starting spot. Najee Harris was not performing. Najee Harris, I like him, but he does not fit well behind this current offensive line. He does not fit well in this current offense. I give him credit because I think he was the major outlier of our offense the last 2 years. This year, he looks slower than he ever has before, in my opinion. He doesn't have burst the way that you need to have burst in the NFL. To me, Daniel, he looks just more like a goal line running back. Let me put it that way. A goal line running back, a 3rd and 1 type running back. He doesn't receive the ball well. He can't block. And it's not a knock. I still like him. I think having both of them is honestly a luxury. But Jaylen Warren has earned it. He's earned it. He's got the speed. He's got the burst. He can block. He can gain yards after the catch. If they have a little design slip screen running back, half slip screen to him or something like that. Not really much of a receiving back in the way where he's going to line up as a receiver, but coming off a screen or something like that, he can give you some juice. He can give you some yards. He's earned it. He simply earned it. So he has to get the majority of the workload at running back, no question.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he does everything better than what Najee can do. Yeah, he blocks better in the passing game. He's everything across the board.
And it's
he
just
needs
reality.
to be out there.
Yeah, it's just reality. Like Tomlin likes to stick with really milk out everything he can with first round picks. But dude, you're trying to win ball games. You got to play the guy that's giving you production.
But I think that Najee is kind of the point into the direction of what the problem really is and or was. And that's Kevin Colbert. This team, he's gone already, but we're still having to deal with a lot of the ways that he built this team. This team wasn't built very well. When you avoid, center and tackle and offensive line and defensive line, the trenches for so long, it takes a toll on the team. That's why we had a Kendrick Green out there, in front of Ben Roethlisberger or a Dan Moore rookie, protecting his blind side.
Brutal, just brutal.
Exactly. It was just a throw in the towel type of season once we saw what that was. Now, if you go and look at his last, I don't know how many draft picks, first rounders, I think all the way back up to TJ Watt. You know, outside of TJ Watt, then I think you can even go back as Jarvis Jones. I would take 4 of the Steelers draft picks this year that they got in Khan's first year as the GM, then probably majority, if not all, of those first rounders outside TJ. You know, and that's bad. That's a decade of bad acquisitions in the first round.
Yes, it is. Outside of, if we're going to go since Jarvis Jones, which was 2013, Ryan Shazier and TJ Watt are probably the only guys that are worth putting a thought to about that. 2015 was Bud Dupree. He did not come along till year 4, and he was good. He was good his 5th year, but other than that, he had 2 good years of his career. Artie Burns was a failure. Terrell Edmonds was not a first-round pick. They didn't have one in 2020. Claypool, we all know how that turned out. Najee's not looking like a first-round pick, and neither is Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're stuck with that.
Yeah.
That is what built the team.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think we need to flush it all out. I think the problem is at the head coach. You know, I don't know if that's a favorable opinion or not, but I think the head coach has been the Steelers' head coach for long enough. You know, his philosophy has become stale at this point. His Tomlinisms aren't what they used to be. They don't hype everybody up anymore. Yeah. It doesn't work here. You know, his team are doing things that I have never seen a Mike Tomlin team do. And they had Antonio Brown. You know, I haven't seen like the public demonstration of like basically what Najee did by throwing his coach under the bus. You know, those type of things. Never seen it. You know, we saw AB at the end of his tenure with the Pittsburgh Steelers throwing some things, or, you know, being kind of, you know, showing who he was at the end of his tenure with the Steelers. But you have a guy like George Pickens who's, you know, starting to do that his first year as a rookie.
Yeah.
You know, and then this year he goes out there and, you know, deletes everything and says, "Free me." I mean, that's a page right out of AB's playbook.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, this is not what the Steelers were when you had a Troy Polamalu, when you had, you know, Casey Hampton, you had Beard on offense, you had Ben Roethlisberger, you had Hines Ward, or you know, you had guys, Marquise Pouncey, Ramon Foster. You had guys that were adults. They were grown-ass men. We don't have that right now. We got a bunch of kids, and we have a coach who's treating them like they were Ben Roethlisberger, like that's Antonio Brown. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's not working. You're giving them too much for it. Like, you know, Coach T, and I could be wrong. If it's out there, please point it into my direction. But he never blamed Ben Roethlisberger for anything. Right now, when he came to the even when he was blaming, even when Ben was blaming Antonio Brown for that interception against Denver that he threw to the defensive lineman, you know, he never stuck up for anybody else. He always gave Ben Roethlisberger a slide. Now, I understand it. Why? You know, he came into the organization. Ben Roethlisberger was there. He was the franchise quarterback. He'd already won a Super Bowl ring, and he took the Pittsburgh Steelers to 2 more. So I get it. But why is he giving the same treatment to Kenny Pickett? What the hell has he done?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? That's where I don't like it. And, you know, you expect your team to act a certain way or be an adult, and yet you can't even take accountability for what's really going on with your team, where the deficiencies are. You know, when the offense is brought up, he turns and says that the defense should have intercepted the ball closer to the 20. Like, what kind of crap is that?
Right. No, I hear you, Daniel. Yeah. Yep. I hear you. It's going to be telling if he signs a contract extension next year or not.
Mm-hmm. I think he's tied. I think he's married to Kenny Pickett. I think they're going to give him next year. And if it don't work out, I think that's where we're going to see probably some real change.
Yeah. Z says, I was told Calvin Austin was the next Deshaun Jackson. I was told Dan Moore was the next Joe Thomas. I was told Matt Canada would take them to the promised land, and told Kenny was the next Mahomes. So that's all you got to know from him, ladies and gentlemen. Z thinks Lamar should win MVP from throwing 12 passing touchdowns this season. So there you go. But no, Z's obviously trolling. As you guys see him in here, he's a moron. I don't think he wants to be here after next year. He might not. He might not. I don't know. Nobody knows what's going on through his head. He might have the motivation after firing Canada. Who knows? Maybe he has the motivation. He goes out of his way outside the organization, brings some guys in, and he wants to retool everything and have a change of scenery. Who knows? He could ultimately do that. I don't know. Probably not. But we'll see. Ben is why they're afraid to go after a real quarterback. They didn't want to make him upset. Dude, you know, I was all for. I actually low key, deep in my heart, wanted them to take Jalen Hurts in 2020 and have him sit behind Ben until Ben was done. I honestly wanted that. Now, I don't think Jalen Hurts right now is an elite quarterback. I don't think that he's a special quarterback right now, but I think he's a solid quarterback on the rise. But still, I wanted to see something like that where when 2020 hit, when Ben was coming back, we knew that time was very dwindling. I would have liked to seen them gone out for a swing and do something like that and have somebody sit for a year or two, and let that guy flourish. Didn't happen, but it is what it is. Jared Devil says, I'm not giving up on the kid. He's got time. So when we look at this, with firing Canada, it definitely just speaks to me. The organization's had enough. Speaks to me. They know Matt Canada's been the common guy, and it's just there's no rapid improvement. We know that. 100% the organization knows Kenny's not playing good. We all know this. We watch him every single week, blah, blah, blah. But if Kenny, he's got time, guys, already 28. Oh, man, that's funny. But TJ and Cam don't. That's another thing as well. So really when we this is how I perceive this, Daniel. I root for Kenny every week. I want him to do well. If Mason Rudolph was the quarterback, I would root for him and want him to do well. If Mitch Trubisky was the quarterback, I would root for him and want him to do well. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is to me. I want them to succeed and do well. If Kenny does not get any better, if there's no, he's got 7 more weeks to play football. If Kenny does not play any better, if he continues to struggle, there's no confidence, he looks like he's shot, he's damaged goods, whatever it is, you have to have a conversation. You really do. And I understand that people will say, you got to give him a new offense, a new play caller. But when we look at Kenny, okay, if he's going to stay on this trajectory, we have to see how these last 7 weeks go. It's going to be one or two things. It's going to be one. Oh, Steelers fan, believe me, I would. When Mason Rudolph stepped in for Big Ben, I was hoping he did well, but he didn't impress me. Believe me, I would. He's just not a guy that should be a starter.
Hey, but here's the thing, though. Here's what I find kind of crazy. And a lot of people were saying that maybe perhaps Kenny should get benched at this point. You know, in 2019, when Mason got benched for Duck, it was after a Cincinnati loss where he played. I'm sorry, it was after a Browns loss where he played horrible and got the helmet. And then the next week it was against the Cincinnati Bengals, which is where he got benched at. This is the same position that they're in. And if you look at the stats there, Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph are pretty much on par with each other. And I beg to differ that. And they both had some serious injuries throughout, the career or throughout this season. Obviously, Mason Rudolph had the helmet thing that happened to him, and he got knocked out from the Ravens. Z probably remembers that. I know you do. You were in stadium, right? And so,
yeah.
If we had Ben Roethlisberger, if Ben Roethlisberger was drafted last year, this team would be going to the Super Bowl this year. Bar none. Easy as that. Even with this offensive coordinator. The thing is, I mean, and I was, I gave up on him last year, and he turned it around after the bye. Maybe he can, turn it around after the OC change. But I'm concerned, man. I'm concerned with the quarterback. I think that the reason why Matt Canada wasn't fired at the beginning of the year or at the bye, and they were trying to maybe drag him along to the end of the season, was because he was the scapegoat for Kenny. Right now, all eyes are going to be on Kenny Pickett. And if he goes out there, it's a 3-and-out the first 2 possessions. I guarantee you, like it was in Canada, it's probably going to start trending. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, it's a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah.
I don't see anything that he does great. Ben Roethlisberger, even in his rookie year or second year, he didn't read defenses well. And yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers kind of handcuffed him as well, didn't let him throw the ball or go crazy with it. But the offense wasn't inept. It was the defense wasn't on the field for freaking 40 minutes a game. You know what I mean? So this is completely different. And especially with the weapons that the Pittsburgh Steelers have, and even with what they have as the offensive line, because Ben Roethlisberger had a worse offensive line, maybe not that first year, but when he went to the Super Bowl in 2008, which I think was he was 25, 26 years old. So he was Kenny Pickett's age when he won that Super Bowl. Yeah. So I don't know. I just maybe it's the pessimist in me. I just don't think that this is going to change anything. I was breaking down some film earlier today, and I have a video that's going to be coming out here pretty soon, and it is going to be referencing why the straw that basically broke the camel's back as to why Matt Canada got fired, and I'm basically just breaking down the last 2 drives. And on those 2 drives, there's one play in specifically that really bothered me. And you had Deontay Johnson on the left side go up and out, probably about, 12 yards or so. It was at the sticks. And that's the route that he chose. And he overthrew him a little bit. This isn't the one that he overthrew by a mile. This is the other overthrow on the left side. And when you look at the play and you just see the way it breaks down, the Browns don't hide anything. They're showing that they're going to play in zone. And Kenny looks to the one guy that is covered by 3 defenders. And he makes that throw. Had he gone to the right side, George Pickens, who was running a mirror route, but had a slot receiver running a seam route, he was wide open. Now you had 3, almost 4 defenders on the side that Deontay Johnson is, and he's the only receiver to that side. He's the only option. And on the other side, you have Jaylen Warren, you have Robinson, and you have George Pickens. So you have 3 options there with 3 defensive backs, and you have George Pickens wide open. I just don't understand why he's looking to the left side to begin with. Like the numbers don't match. They don't make sense. And
that's an IQ problem.
Yeah. Like like he should know what, like the Browns didn't hide it. Like there's no hiding it. And what you have on that side. On the left side there was Pat Freiermuth, but he was doing protection. They were doing a max protect, helping out Dan Moore because he had himself the worst game of his career. I
feel like we say that every other game.
Yeah.
Jeez,
and
awful.
Yeah, so like those mistakes that I see are what are constantly there. There was another play, the one that went viral, where somebody said that this was the wrong route that Deontay Johnson ran, and I work with the guy. We both work for Fans for Sports Network. He's part of FFSN. I disagree with his take. He says that Deontay Johnson ran the wrong route. On that play, you have the Browns playing what looks like pre-snap. It looks like single safety or single high safety man. At the snap of the ball, you can see the cornerback drop back. It's obvious. It's the cornerback that he's staring at because it's Deontay Johnson's, cornerback. And you have 2 routes. You have a seam route that's going to beat your zone, and you have a crossing route that's going to beat your man. All you have to do is pick correctly what the defense is doing. If you say that, and it's a big game, if they were running man and that ended up being the situation, that's probably going for 6 for Deontay Johnson. If Kenny Pickett decides to throw it to to Pickens instead, I don't know if that's going for 6, but that's going for at least 25 and a first down. And so those things concern me. I mean, and like I said, in that play, all he had to do was figure out if they're running man or zone, and he can't do it post snap. It's the game is way too fast for him, way too fast. And like Coach Tomlin said in his press conference, it's September ball in November, and that's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely does, Daniel. It looks like it looks like it was a battle of the backup quarterbacks on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if you look at what the Steelers did defensively in the second half to the Cleveland Browns, that is the exact same defense that's usually thrown at Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's keep everything in front of you. They're really not going to throw it deep, and attack the first throw, the first read. He really don't come off that first read, man, and that's super concerning.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't at all, dude. The Jaylen Warren swing pass with freaking 3 unblocked players. I don't know what to tell you. That's freaking miserable.
That was on him.
I turned off the game, man. I had to turn off the game. I couldn't watch it. It was miserable to watch that every single week. And this is one thing I wanted to say. I appreciate the Steelers being at 6-4. I appreciate over these games of them winning in the fourth quarter and doing well. But I am tired of not being excited watching their games. They are the most boring football team I've watched all year. I'd rather watch Bryce Young and the Panthers, a 1-8 Panthers team play. They are the most boring team to watch in football right now. It is hard to watch. And you have the fans out there that are saying, oh, Steelers won. What are we complaining about? Yeah, Steelers won. And we should always celebrate wins. Wins are the most important thing at the end of the day in football. But when you're not enjoying the game every other week, when you're not, he's going to be Jenny. Well, see, I don't blame you. I mean, he's pretty much playing like a Jenny. But when you're not enjoying the game, when you're watching the same game every week, what's there to celebrate? What's there to celebrate about when you have 6 passing touchdowns on the season? There's nothing to celebrate there. There's nothing to celebrate when you're scoring 15 points a game and every single game comes down to the wire in the fourth quarter. What's there to celebrate about that? Do you think they're a mid football team who's won 6 games? That's what they are.
Do you think the legend of comeback Kenny or fourth quarter Kenny, is that a thing of the past now? He didn't come back this week, and last game before that, his fourth quarter performance wasn't anything to cheer about. Is that myth gone?
It could be. It could be gone, but the thing is, I don't want a starting quarterback that only gives me 5 minutes of play in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So, let's be honest here. When's the last time you enjoyed a Steeler game? I honestly can't tell you. I can't tell you the last time I enjoyed a full-on Steeler game from first quarter to fourth quarter. I can't tell you. It's been years. Most disrespectful thing is that the other teams not only don't fear the team, they think the team's full of punks. No other team fears the Steelers, man. The teams look at the Steelers on the calendar, and there's no fear there, the way that there used to be. That's just the way it is. But and I'm gonna say this too: football. Like, of course, we talk about the Steelers, but what we say as fans about the team, almost every other fan base is saying the same exact thing about their team. Football right now is a garbage product in the NFL. Jalen Hurts is the leading favorite for MVP with 15 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. Quarterback play across the league is miserable. NFL offense is down statistically. I don't care what ratings say. The quality or the quality of play is garbage. I think the NFL instituting and honestly changing their game by the year has hurt. It's not good, Daniel. The NFL product sucks right now. And it's year 3, in my opinion, that the NFL has had a garbage product. So what we're saying about the Steelers, 95% of other fan bases are saying the same exact thing about their teams. But since we're focused on the Steelers, it's going to be one or two things. Oh, officiating is awful, and it's awful every year. I'm going to say it's two things. When we watch on Sunday and the rest of the year, it's going to be two things. And this is it. You're either going to see one, Kenny makes improvement, and we sit back and say, really what obviously the elephant in the room was with Matt Canada. There's a weight off the back, maybe getting some new voices, some new, like Daniel said, a new philosophy and things has changed. So you're either going to see Kenny do a little better, or he's just going to stay the same. There's no in between. It's going to be one of the two. And the Steelers are going to have to make a decision. If Kenny continues to stay at this pace with 6 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and he's not pushing the ball down the field, and he's killing the offense, and he's running in sacks, and he's making bad decisions, and he's not hitting routine throws, and he's missing open guys, you have to make a decision. You have to make a decision, because it's not that Kenny's struggling from time to time, and yet he's showing promise, Daniel. It's not that situation. That's different. If he's showing promise, yet also showing struggle, that's different. We're not seeing any promise here. I haven't seen promise all year.
I mean, what does he do good? What does he do good? He doesn't have the arm.
Not much.
You know, he can't throw off balance. That's probably part of the reason why he can't go to the second read. You know, he has a super slow release.
Right.
Like even Madden got it down. You know, I've played with him at Madden. He has a slow release there too. Trust me.
I guess you probably can only go to your first read in that game.
Yeah, because I mean, by the time he throws it, he's getting hit and the ball's wobbling all over the place. And you know, he has a slow release. He got a 17 on the Wonderlic, you know, IQ test, which, you know, some people say that's one thing. Some people say it's nothing. Who cares? But that's the football IQ test. You know, your football aptitude test or whatnot. And just for example, Brock Purdy got like a 95, right? So, you know, big difference there between 17.
That's one good thing, Daniel. No interceptions.
Yeah, but I mean, who cares? There's no threat there. You know, I know that, but like, it's just like, might as well be throwing interceptions with how many times you put the defense on the field.
Right.
You know, and he doesn't, and it's him who doesn't target the dang middle of the field. It's there. It's always there. There are routes that I see that, hey, you know, this is open because this receiver ran this route and that pulled that cornerback down, and the running back ran this route and that pulled this person this way. So it was designed to open up right there. And that's why it opened up. And he's not looking there. There was like 3 plays in the Browns game where we had crossers right in the middle, right in front of his face, wide open. Didn't do anything.
I don't understand it either,
like,
Daniel. I don't.
You know, I get why everybody's happy that Canada's gone. And I mean, I don't care that he is or isn't. I just still like am embarrassed by the performance that we had. And we let, you know, our first round draft pick has gotten outplayed by every rookie quarterback that he's faced this year. I mean,
it's a problem. It is. And that's why I say that you need to have a conversation. Listen, I'm an advocate for patience when it comes to developing talent. But when quarterback's your most important position and you have a quarterback that's going into his second year, I know he has not started a full 2-season stretch, but when he's going into year 2 and he has over 20 starts now where he currently sits, and you're not seeing anything that's there that you can warrant as in, okay, there's a handful of things there we like, we just need somebody else to work with him. That's a problem, because there's nothing there. There's nothing there that you can sit and watch every single week and say, Kenny can build on that. There's nothing there that
Yeah.
you can say, okay, we have something good right here that we're seeing with Kenny. We're still seeing some bad, but he's only in year 2. That can get better. We're not seeing that. It's just every other week, we're sitting here saying that's probably Kenny's worst performance of his career so far.
Right. And
And
Steeler
the
Lee
only,
says,
yeah,
yeah, Steeler Lee says that CJ Stroud did horrible on that test too. And I get it, he did, but you know, CJ Stroud has other abilities that help him, you know, get over that. And he trusts his arm. I don't think Kenny Pickett can trust. I don't think he trusts his arm.
no,
I don't think he
no,
trusts that he's going to get it there.
no, he doesn't.
Uh,
He plays
yeah,
scared, Daniel. You can see it every week. Now, I don't know if he's told to nobody can sit here and say for sure what he's being told versus what he's not being told. Is he being told at certain times to just target your first read? Is he being told sometimes to, hey, you can't turn the ball over. We don't want you doing this right now. I mean, maybe, but like, why would you be wanting your 25-year-old quarterback in year 2? Why would you be wanting to hold him hostage?
well, I don't think that's the case. I mean, I think that's who he is. Isn't that what he did in college? He stared down a guy. The only difference was that he was able to run around
But
and
in
eventually find
college, in his
somebody.
last year in college. Now, I didn't watch Pitt a ton, but in last year in college, you saw more there that you could look at him and say, okay, he might be a decent quarterback in the league, but now where he's at, you're not even sitting there able to say that. I know college is a
Mhm.
completely different game. I know playing in the ACC is a complete different ball game. I'm not comparing the two, but with the year he did have in college and being a Heisman finalist and everything like that, like there's at least things there. If you're a Heisman finalist, there's at least things there that you can look at and say, okay, he might be decent. There's some good traits there. There's some good attributes there. But when you're transitioning it to the NFL, as he's over almost 25 games in or however many games he has, and you're not really able to sit and point out anything positive, that's a huge problem.
Right. No, you're right. And I don't know anything about his college either. I only watched a few of his games. Um, and I saw concerns there. I even put on there, I'd have to go back, you know, I think I put on, back to my draft videos is one of the very first ones. But I said he reminds me of a more athletic Mason Rudolph. He has happy feet. He leaves clean pockets, and he takes a little bit longer to throw the ball, and he doesn't have the arm strength. It's a wobbly pass every time he throws it. I was really like, here's the thing, man. If we were to traverse back in time to around a week before the free agency opened up, the year that the Steelers drafted Kenny Pickett and signed Mitch Trubisky, one of my good friends, his name is Chris. He's a New Orleans Saints fan, and there was some questions there at quarterback. You know which 2 quarterbacks I teased him about who they were going to get?
What, Rudolph or Kenny?
No. That offseason, because he said that they needed a QB that year. The first quarterback that I teased him with before the draft, the first quarterback I teased him with, I said, man, you guys are going to go get Mitch Trubisky. He was like, nah, man, I don't want him. I was like, yeah, y'all going to need y'all need a quarterback. Y'all going to get Mitch Trubisky. And he's like, no, I don't want that guy. I don't want that guy. It was a joke. He was a joke. I really hoped the Steelers weren't going to do it. I was making fun of my buddy who his team needed a quarterback. And when it came down to draft night and the Saints were on the clock, guess who I said he, was teasing him about which quarterback he was going to get in that moment? Right. Kenny Pickett. I was really hoping that they were, so that the Steelers wouldn't get him, because I'll be honest, I didn't like any of the tape that I saw. And I think that the rest of the league saw that. If you look at the rest of the quarterback class, none of them were selected until the 3rd round. Mm-hmm. Right. And I think that there's some sort of evidence to show that, hey, maybe it was as bad as people said. You know what I mean? And maybe the rest of the NFL that stayed away from the quarterback position were right. And my thing is, if the Steelers are there in the 1st round next year and a quarterback drops and they don't get him, that's going to, that could be a nightmare.
That's what I mean. They have to consider it. And this isn't us crapping on Kenny. We want the guy to do well. But everybody that follows not just the Steelers but football know he's not a good quarterback right now. And it's just the reality. We don't want to sit here and come on and say all this negativity about Kenny, but everybody knows, everybody says the same, because unless if you're somebody who like, even if you're a fan of him, which is fine, you yourself can't come to a conclusion on being able to list 3 things that he does really well. And that's just how it is. And it could be any other quarterback that the Steelers have in right now. We'd be saying the same thing if the production's the same. So if he just continues this trajectory, the last 7 games, these last 7 weeks of the season, you have to have a conversation. And I was thinking about this. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to answer a couple questions here before I get into this conversation here. Or a couple comments. Yeah, the Washington quarterback, Michael Penix, I like him a lot. Don't know where he's going to go in the draft. I also like Jaden Daniels a lot from LSU. I think those are 2 guys. Hindsight 2020, do you think Malik Willis would have been a better fit? No, because Malik Willis can't throw the ball. Malik Willis cannot throw the ball, man. And there's a reason Malik Willis as well went in the 3rd round. And I don't think Kenny would have been picked in the 1st round if the Steelers didn't pick him, to be honest. But yeah, Steeler lead, to answer your question, brother. No, I don't think so. Malik Willis is at the bottom of the totem pole with the Titans. He's very athletic. He has arm strength, but he's not a precise passer. He hasn't taken his game to that next level. And that's why the Titans decided to draft Will Levis. NFL's 3 times faster. Defensive schemes are 3 times more complex. Wide receiver windows 3 times smaller. Plus, NFL QBs must throw where the wide receivers will be. KP waits until the break on the routes. Yes, he does. The DBs are too fast. Burrow has the anticipation accuracy thing. He doesn't have a strong arm or he's not a stud athlete. So KP should be able to do it also. And that was definitely KP's kind of lower NFL comparison, not on that he would be on that level, but in terms of similar kind of quality or traits and stuff like that.
Did you see
go ahead.
Did you see Claypool's reaction when he was told that Kenny Pickett is no different than Joe Burrow before the start of this year? Yeah, he had one of those like, I don't know if that's true. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw that, I thought that was very concerning because at the time, I think Claypool. It must have been last year.
I forgot they even played together, man.
Yeah. Because at the time, I think Claypool either had just gotten traded, or maybe perhaps he was still a Pittsburgh Steeler. But yeah, he made this weird face about it, and it went kind of viral. Gone around where it said that Claypool doesn't believe in Kenny Pickett. And I'm sure if you just Google that, you'll probably see it and you'll see his face. And, he doesn't have faith in the guy. And the thing is, the Steelers shouldn't have gotten a quarterback last year. Your GM is leaving. There's no accountability there. There's no pressure on making really the right choice. Kevin Colbert's out the door. I don't think that was probably the right decision. I mean, you're also going to handcuff the next person that comes in. I think that was a selfish, crappy move. To be honest with you, I didn't like it.
I think it was just we need a quarterback, and we're going to take him.
Nah, it wasn't that we needed a quarterback. It was because it was his ego. It was Kevin Colbert's ego. He drafted Ben Roethlisberger, and he wanted to draft the next guy. It was his ego. That's what I mean. That's all it was.
That's fair.
And he did it in a way where it's not going to come back on him. And is he going to be remembered as the guy that drafted Kenny Pickett? Because probably not. It was his last year. It was the last draft. Everybody's going to remember him for drafting T.J. Watt, Ryan Shazier, Ben Roethlisberger, Marquise Pouncey, DeCastro. A lot of what he did in his early on, aspects of being with the Pittsburgh Steelers as the GM. But yeah, he did the Steelers dirty by doing that, in my opinion. I understand that they needed a quarterback, but they had a bridge guy in Trubisky. And I think that Trubisky probably plays better without the pressure of a first rounder behind him.
I don't know. Maybe. I'm with you, like on the sense of not feeling there shouldn't have been to feel a need to draft a quarterback that year. I was okay with whatever they wanted to do, but
Mhm.
it wasn't something I felt like, yeah, we need 100% draft one, because you can find that bridge guy, which obviously was with Mitch. I still don't think that if Mitch stayed the course throughout the entire year last year, they still would have made the playoffs. I don't think he would have elevated them as much, but then that takes you into the conversation. Well, who would they have drafted after last year, or what direction would they have went? But I was thinking about, if they decide to have a conversation about going in a different direction at quarterback, the only starting quarterback currently in the NFL that I think makes sense in the Steelers, what would make sense to do anything, would be Kirk Cousins. They're not going to trade for a guy that has a big contract like Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray's an average quarterback, and he's a terrible leader. I don't understand why anybody would want him. Justin Fields, no. He's just an athletic runner. No thanks. You're a lot better off just starting fresh and finding a new guy in the draft and developing him that way. But if you're going to look at a quarterback that's currently in the NFL, Kirk Cousins, to me, is the only one that stands out to me.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to
And
see
I
that.
like
See,
him. I think he's a solid quarterback. You're not going to win a championship with him, but if that's going to be the direction you go, I'd rather have that than have another bridge quarterback next year if they don't draft anybody.
That's the thing. I mean, we laid out the players that were drafted to be the foundation of this team for the last decade a little while ago. If you take the last 3 first rounders, would you give up those guys for a franchise quarterback?
Wait, say that again.
If we were to look back at the last first rounders, you have Kenny, Naj. I don't even remember the one before him. But
they didn't have a first rounder in 2020.
Right. Well, the one before that, it don't matter. Devin Bush. If you could trade those 3 guys and get second, third overall pick, would you do it?
If the draft class was worth it, yeah. But it's hard to look back at things in hindsight when when you're where you're at now, because like nobody, unless you're getting an elite quarterback, or unless you're getting an elite prospect in the top 3, nobody's going to want to give up 3 first round picks. No fan, no organization, nothing.
I mean, you might be right, but we also laid out, some of the bad picks going back to Jarvis Jones, Artie Burns, and yet the Steelers were still competent, and they were still, a Super Bowl contender. And why was that? It was because they had Ben Roethlisberger. If you want to be a Super Bowl contender in today's NFL, you have to have it right in the quarterback position. Even then, you have to have it right.
Yeah.
And you can probably get away with certain things. I mean, Ben didn't have an offensive line in 2008. I think he got sacked over 50 something times that year. You know what I mean? And when you have, if you were to give up or forfeit, 3 first rounders to move up and get the guy that, has everything. If he does exist, I don't know if he exists in this draft or not, but if there's a guy out there that the Steelers can say, hey, that guy really looks like he should belong in the black and gold.
Yeah.
I say you do it, and you can buy the rest of the pieces that you need because you don't have an expensive quarterback contract.
Right. 100%, Daniel. 100%. I'm on your side. And I think that there's interesting quarterbacks. I'm not a quarterback evaluator. I'm not a big college football guy, but I see these quarterbacks play every week. I see different things from them. I don't sit and watch every single game that all these quarterbacks playing, but there's interesting prospects. Let me just put it that way. Outside of Caleb Williams, who's your number 1 guy, there's interesting prospects. Michael Penix, Jalen Daniels. I mean, Bo Nix is still up in there. There's I know JJ McCarthy from Michigan, but I don't know. The guy's a coat rack. JJ McCarthy's a freaking squirt at the end of the day. You have Drake May from North Carolina, but he's going to go in the top 3 probably. But it's worth a conversation. And now that's just the thing. It comes down to the organization. Do they think, if they sit back and look at these 6, 7 quarterbacks, that some of them will go in the first, some will probably go in the early second? Do they sit back and and like any of these guys or think that these guys are going to give him more than what Kenny does, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's on them. We all can fantasy draft ourselves and stuff like that. But it's definitely worth talk. And it's something I'm open for. I think it's probably something every Steeler fan is open for if things don't get better the rest of this year. 100%. I think it's something you got to think about. Absolutely.
I agree. And like I said, I mean, it's right now, this style of thinking is just not, this style of football. It's old school and it really isn't working anymore. The keep it close, win in the end, win with your defense. Yeah, and lean on your defense for 40 minutes.
You can have a good defense. You can have a good defense and average 25 points a game. Seriously, it's okay to do that.
Mm-hmm.
The Steelers want to average 18 points a game and win 18-16. That's where they're at right now.
Yeah.
They need to. NFL offense is the highest it's ever been in the sense of not just how easier it is compared to years prior, but how the NFL has set up NFL offenses score points. It's the way the league is, and you have to transition. I think every Steeler fan's tired of seeing the 18-point games, the 15-point games, the 20 to 17s, the 17 to 14s, the 13 to 10s. I think everybody's tired of that. It's not 2005. So
I mean,
you have to change.
If you look at what the Rams and the 49ers did, now it didn't really work out with the 49ers in the essence of Trey Lance. They ended up getting lucky in finding their guy. And, you fall into that possibility that you're going to go into the first round and the person that you're going to go up there and get doesn't work out, right? I mean, not saying that's what's happening now, but, so far up to this point, it hasn't worked out with Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the Steelers didn't give anything up to get him,
right?
Because that would have hurt. I think that, and the Steelers tried to. They tried to move up. I think they were trying to move up to number 15 to get him, and I think it was with the Saints, and the Saints said no because they wanted to get their receiver. But and it's just kind of like beating a dead horse. But I struggled to see this team getting much better without Canada or with anybody. And I struggle to see a good offensive coordinator coming in here if his options at quarterback are Kenny Pickett, Mr. Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph. I think he's going to want to bring in somebody else. And in my opinion, like I said, I think you need to go up there and get your guy. You need to go out there, get your guy. I would even consider, would you consider trading TJ Watt for a couple of first round picks?
No. TJ Watt
not at all.
A cornerstone of this
team. He's getting up there.
He's only 29.
Yeah, but I mean, how old is his brother and when he started to break down?
Yeah, but that's different for everybody. Same bloodlines, I get it, but like it's different for everybody. He has not had the same amount of injuries that JJ Watt's had.
But I think I've seen a little bit of a decline. Now, I'll say this. He's a phenomenal player.
Once TJ's 31, 32, 33, he ain't going to be the same. He's going to be like Von Miller is at this point. But still, TJ Watt is somebody that, dude, that's how it is. There's franchises that have franchise players that you just never get rid of. It does not matter. It was the same way. The Pirates traded Andrew McCutchen, and it never should have happened. It killed the fan base. It's the beginning of the downfall. It was the beginning of dividing the fan. You don't do crap like that. You don't. TJ, as long as he plays the majority of his career, he's going to go down as an all-time great edge rusher. There's no question about that. TJ is a guy. He is the face of this organization. I don't care what anybody offers. Unless it's a Patrick Mahomes or something like that. I don't care what anybody offers. You don't move somebody like that, ever.
I mean, if the Steelers end up not getting a quarterback or something, he sees what Kenny Pickett is. His brother left Houston to chase a ring. You don't see him trying to do the same?
Well, J.J. Watt was a free agent when J.J. Watt left. When J.J. Watt left Houston. If T.J. Watt's a free agent, he can do whatever the heck he wants. If TJ Watt requests a trade, you can do whatever he wants, but like you're not going to trade him.
No, I just feel that.
And who's to say, like that's what I mean, dude. Like, he's 29, he still has a handful of years left to play. Will he be an elite edge rusher by in the next 4 or 5 years? No, but he still can be a very quality player for their defense. And who's to say that the Steelers don't have an answer at quarterback come next year, or the year after that? You know, like, who's to say that? Just because that Kenny's your quarterback right now, it doesn't mean that you go trade guys.
I mean, I think you got to think about it. I mean, I think you got to pick up the phone call, because he's 29 right now. But is he going to what year is he? How old is he going to be? How old is he going to be? The start of next season or throughout the middle of next season? He's going to be 30, and like you said, is he going to have his best football ahead of him? Probably not. I think we've already kind of seen. He's on pace for like 17, 18 sacks, which is phenomenal. It's a great year. But there's been a little bit more injuries, and he's getting up there in age. If somebody says, hey, we'll give you 2 first-round picks and one of them is in the top 10, I don't know, man. I think you got to pick up the phone call there.
I think that's something that can be a franchise changer that sets you back, man. Because just because you get 2 first-round picks doesn't mean those first-round picks are hidden. You can look back at drafts every year, and more than not, first-round picks don't hit. First-round picks do not play like first-round picks. And to me, you just don't do that. You don't take a chance like that. That's going to kill your fan base. That's going to that's an altering move, Daniel, that you're going to make right there. If you trade TJ Watt for 2 or 3 first-round picks, that is an ultimate game-changing move that you make. And then you better freaking hit on a Hall of Fame quarterback if that's going to be the case. And that's very, very hard to do.
Right. No, yeah. I'm just, speaking out loud. I'm not saying
no, you can fantasize about it, think about it. There's nothing wrong with just having fun, having fun with it or anything. But in terms of my opinion, and I think the majority would agree, that's a move you do not even consider. That is a move you do not make. You can't, man. He's your whole team, man. Look how they are without him. They're terrible without the guy.
I agree. I'm not saying that's a bad move or not the right move or is the right move. I'm just thinking that, if the Steelers end up finding themselves in a position where they're not going to get a franchise guy as long as TJ Watt's on the team, because they're never going to be that bad. You know what I mean? They're never going to be that bad until he's gone, and they're never going to be that good, with the draft, where they're at in the draft, unless they do something, unless they spice it up, give up 3 picks, move up in the first round to try to get a guy. I mean, you got to take a swing for the fences every now and then. Are you, can you strike out? Yeah, but you're never going to hit a home run if you don't try. At least do something. It's not how often is somebody going to fall? Like, it doesn't happen that often. Not anymore. Nope. Scouts are a lot better than what they were. There's technology out there that are finding these players. There's no more secrets. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You have it's hard. It's hard to predict how players are going to. You can't. You got to let rookies play out. Probably usually the timelines give them 3 years. That's usually the timeline for anybody that really gets drafted. And you look back and really see how things were. But if Kenny doesn't get better and there's a quarterback they like, you might have to make a trade up or something. We'll see. I think that there's probably about 5 quarterbacks that will go in the first round this year.
But do you trust Tomlin to get a quarterback?
If Kenny Pickett doesn't do much better, I mean, I think it's possible.
No. I'm not like that. Do you trust him to evaluate a quarterback to bring one on the team?
Probably not. That's not really his expertise, but I think that's why you need to have people in the organization that do.
Yeah, see, I think the day that we draft another quarterback is probably going to be when Tomlin's not the head coach. And it's probably a good reason. I don't, they got Kenny Pickett. Mason Rudolph, they gave a first-round grade. That guy was supposedly or possibly the heir apparent to Ben Roethlisberger. Landry Jones in the 3rd round. You had Joshua Dobbs in a 5th round. These aren't undrafted quarterbacks. Joshua Dobbs is doing good now. But how many years has it been? Are we going to give Kenny that amount of time? He's going to be like freaking Brady's age by then.
Right.
It's the quarterbacks that they have evaluated, and here's the sad part: the Steelers probably had other quarterbacks graded up there with Kenny Pickett as a first round
They
rounder.
probably did. They probably had Desmond Ridder as a first round pick or a first round pick.
You know, if Kenny would have gone, you know, in the first 12 or 10 or whatever, the Steelers were going to select a quarterback there.
Yeah.
And knowing what we know is that no other NFL team decided to do that before the third round. And, you know, a lot of folks say, hey, you know, if Kenny doesn't get picked there, you know, does anybody come back and get him? If another team honestly had a first round grade on him that was needing a quarterback, they would have gone up and got him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think you're right.
He went all the way to 20 for a reason. I think that the last quarterback to have gone that long was what was his name? Emmanuel something from the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, EJ Manuel.
Yeah, I think he was the last. That was the last quarterback class that a quarterback didn't get selected, you know, that late.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to keep harping on the kid.
I hear you.
Minka Fitzpatrick, Minka Fitzpatrick, I don't think he's going to be back for this game. He's still out. He didn't participate in practice today. I don't know if you had seen that. And Miles Jack has been signed to the practice squad. You know, I think that he's probably got a pretty good possibility of getting on the field. But the Colts, they let a guy go, you know. Can't remember what his name is off the top of my head. Leonard something.
Leonard. Yeah, Shaq Leonard.
Yeah. I am standing Zach.
Formerly Darius Leonard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a couple years ago. He was up there in the sense of some of the best linebackers in the league. Conversation to that. Had an injury issue. It was last year before. Can't remember. Play's been a little bit down, but Colts haven't really been haven't really had him too much in their future plans. So I think it's maybe one of those things. Change of scenery just might be needed for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think this scenery will look good because we need a dang inside linebacker.
Yeah.
Outside of, you know, Landon Roberts played great, but, you know, we played a team that was keeping everything kind of close, right? They weren't taking too many risks. And honestly, Njoku catches a few more passes in that game. It's probably a blowout. But that's all because the Steelers don't have a coverage inside linebacker right now that they trust. Miles Jack getting there. He's all right. Is Shaq Leonard I'm really not familiar with him, to be honest with you. Is he a coverage guy? Is he I only watch the Steelers, man. And then I watch the other teams that the Steelers play. So I base the skill of the other teams based on how they play the Steelers.
Yeah. He's going to get a lot of tackles. I think he's more of somebody that Shaq is cooked. I mean, he could be cooked. I don't think the Steelers are going to go after him. They just signed 2 linebackers. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think if he comes in, I don't think it's really going to be a big game-changing type signing. He's kind of been down the last couple years with injuries and quality of play. But he's going to get you tackles. He's going to go after the running back. He's going to stop the run. You know, he's gotten some interceptions before, but I don't really think that he would be somebody the Steelers would view as like they did Quan Alexander, somebody that they could rely on dropping back more. I don't really view Shaq Leonard as somebody that's like that. So Shaq on the Colts or Shaq on the Suns. Oh man, Z, I'm going Shaq on the Colts. I'll never forget that promise of getting a championship to the Valley. Never happened. Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen though. I think signing those 2 linebackers and Blake Martinez to the active roster and everything like that, I don't think it's going to happen, man. I don't. But I think that this Sunday, I know we really talked about most of the show. We talked about Matt Canada. We talked about Kenny Pickett. We talked about the future of the quarterback position, depending how things finish the rest of the season. Sunday is not just a big game for the Steelers because it's a divisional game. It's a big game because it's the first game without Matt Canada. It's a big game because Kenny Pickett has that monkey off his back with Matt Canada. And can Kenny Pickett show anything in the sense of these last 7 games that it was more so him being held back? Can he push the ball? Will they get him in a position? Will Eddie Faulkner and Mike Sullivan get him in a position to push the ball down the field, to target the middle of the field, to implement play action into what they try to do, to implement Pat Freiermuth, George Pickens? We'll have to wait and see, but I think that it's a big game Sunday, all things considered. And these last 7 games, Daniel, I think that this is a career-defining situation for Kenny. I really do.
Oh, I agree. I think that if it doesn't get better, the Steelers are going to start to look elsewhere. If there's improvement, I think that he's going to be here next year. Do the Steelers go out there and get some better competition for him? Probably
They
not.
could.
I don't think they will, because they never. And this is one of Coach Tomlin's things is we don't anticipate failure.
Yeah.
We don't plan for failure. We anticipate that it's going to work out.
You've been seeing failure all season long.
Yeah, he also said
points a game.
He also said that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something different was insanity, and they were going to change things. And that started with practice squad players. So, him saying something and him doing something sometimes are two different things. But who do you think the Steelers are going to get as the offensive coordinator in the offseason? I don't think they're going to stick with the guys in-house, even if this season somewhat turns around, and Kenny does a little bit better. I don't think I would hope not. Well, who do you think they bring in?
If things, I think, regardless how the rest of this year goes, I agree. I don't think that they're going to put Sullivan or Faulkner as the OC. They both can stay on staff, but I don't think that they'll be promoted offensive coordinator. With them firing Canada midseason gives me a lot of optimism that they're actually going to go out of their way and do their homework and go get somebody from an outside situation. I could see the 49ers quarterback coach could be somebody you talk to. I could see, why am I not standing in? Yeah, why am I? See, if I was standing, you wouldn't be able to see my face. 49ers quarterback coach. I know Byron Leftwich has gotten talk. Not saying that I'm for or against Byron Leftwich, but he had success in Tampa, even with Jameis Winston. You got to give him credit there. They averaged 28 points a game with Jameis Winston. The Texans quarterback coach, I forget his name. The 49ers quarterback coach, I believe, is Gary Kubiak's son, I think. So I think that Gary Kubiak actually was a good offensive. He has some offensive tendencies. His son's kind of transitioned into that. So I think those are at least 3 names that I could see the Steelers taking a shot at, taking a look at. Other guys across the league, like, geez, who else is there that would make sense? I mean, I think that they'll probably look at quarterback coaches from successful offensive teams. I could see a list of like 5 guys that you can probably cherry pick off of successful NFL offensive teams that could get an opportunity for a promotion somewhere else if they're not going to get an offensive coordinator position where they're at. So, and I understand the main target for a coach is to be a head coach in the league. But if you're a quarterback coach, if you're an assistant coach of some kind, if you're a running back coach, you obviously want a promotion offensive coordinator, whether that's where you're currently at or somebody else, and then you take that next step forward. So I would love a Shanahan guy. Yeah, that's why I threw out the 49ers quarterback coach. I forget his first name, but I think it's Gary Kubiak's son. I think that's something that is worth conversation about. I don't know all the names of all these different guys, but I think that when you look at a handful of NFL offenses, I think there's a handful of coaches that have their hands involved in that you can definitely have conversations with and see what you like versus what you don't like. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be another big offseason.
Yeah, I'm not too keen on it being Byron Leftwich, and here's the reason why. Quarterback mobility was one thing that Tomlin stated that he had wanted to be implemented into the playbook, into the scheme, and Byron Leftwich hasn't had that in his repertoire as a player or a coach, and so I don't know how I don't know, maybe he can design it still, but I'm not too familiar how he's going to be able to change his philosophy. He also comes from Bruce Arians, which was the no risk it, no biscuit type of offense that the Steelers once had. And it was successful. It was successful under Ben Roethlisberger. I'm not sure if Kenny Pickett's the guy that you're going to want slinging the ball around the field like that. I don't think he's got the arm to do that kind of throws. So, the offensive line has to get a little bit better. Maybe, if he gets a few a couple of guys there, maybe he'll be able to have a better opportunity to throw the ball down the field. But, the thing is, if we get an offensive coordinator, and let's just say the Steelers stay on par where they're at right now, it doesn't change much, and they end up keeping Kenny Pickett, and they find somebody to come in and they turn Kenny Pickett around. Next season, he throws 25 touchdowns, maybe 4 interceptions. How fast do you think that guy is out the door?
Right.
So if the Steelers want somebody offensive minded, it's got to be the head coach. It's got to be the head coach. And I mean, if you're going to want somebody good and somebody that you're going to be able to be established and do what you did with Coach Tomlin, which was build a consistent foundation, you're not going to be able to do that in today's day and age with a defensive minded coach. Because once you do get this guy that comes in there and turns things around, he's gone the next year.
Yeah. No, I hear you. That's a high ability.
So I think that it's a lot easier to go out there and get an offensive-minded head coach, and you can probably still find like a Brian Flores, because he's a defensive-minded coach who doesn't get the favorability to be a head coach.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because of that. Because, if you get a good offensive coordinator, they're going to turn into a head coach. And I just think that's the way that has to happen. And from the sound of things, it sounds like Mike Tomlin likes to keep everything under his thumb. And I'm not sure, how much control he would have if there was a mastermind there of the offense.
Yeah, I hear you, man. And that's a possibility. That's a good point. Of if they find success, regardless who's quarterback next year, and the Steelers offense finds itself in a position of being the best it's been, which really isn't saying a lot because the bar is very low from the last 3 years. But still, being able to turn things around, make improvement, it is a good thing to think about. Claude, hold on a second. George and Afton. Kubiak's the passing game coordinator for the Niners, not the quarterback coach. My bad. But still, that coaching tree finds itself having success all around the league. But yeah, Daniel, I think we've really went in depth on this Canada stuff, on the future of the quarterback position. Really these last 7 games for Kenny, how much they mean, and everything like that. We'll talk about this Bengals Sunday game, and we can end it on that as we're approaching an hour and a half on the podcast. But we told you guys there's gonna be a lot to talk about, and you guys have, for the most part, stuck around and put your thoughts in there and have listened to what we had to say. So we appreciate that a ton. Daniel, what are your expectations for Sunday? What do you?
The same thing we've been seeing.
What are your predictions? Yeah, same thing.
Same thing, man.
Different day.
Yeah. I don't see adding more onto Kenny's plate as a good thing, for Kenny. And I don't see that, a lot of people are saying, oh man, we got a new offensive coordinator. We're going to, take the handcuffs off. I'm not sure there was ever any handcuffs on. And if you end up doing this handcuff removal, the one thing that he is doing is not turning the ball over. And if these handcuffs are taken away, that may change. And so I don't know. I really think we're going to see a lot of the same. I'm expecting run, pass, punt in the first drive. I'm calling it right now. You have I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be expecting run on the first 2 plays, just because, you have a running coordinator. The run has been doing well for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the last 2 weeks. So I'm expecting 2 runs on the first 2 plays. A big surprise, though, would be if it's Jaylen Warren on the first 2 plays. And that would be a good surprise if that ends up being the case. But chances are it's going to be Najee Harris, and they'll probably go for about 6 yards when you combine the 2. And it'll probably be about 3rd and 4. That's my prediction for the first drive.
All right.
And mark it down. We'll go back and we'll see how close I got.
Let's see how close you got. Now, what if we actually see Kenny throwing the ball around and pushing the ball down the field, and we're seeing a little bit play action, we're seeing a little bit of the middle of the field? How would your thoughts kind of differ in that, in terms of Matt Canada being gone now, and you're starting to maybe see them do some different things offensively they weren't doing? What if that happens? What do you think?
Just be careful what you wish for.
Well, I
When
think
it
I would
comes,
rather see him sling the ball around and turn it over than me seeing a check down every other pass. I would rather have that.
no, I agree. I agree 100%. Um, throwing over the middle of the field outside of the Calvin Austin touchdown pass, well, outside of the Vegas game, because he had the Calvin Austin touchdown pass and he had the George Pickens over the middle pass. Outside of that game, how many good passes? I mean, I know they're very limited, but how many good plays have come out over the middle? There's been a lot of tip passes, a lot going to, Connor Hayward that have almost ended up in interceptions. One ended up in an interception against the 49ers. Those type of things happen in the middle of the field for him. Sometimes the ball floats on him when he's throwing the ball. So I think there's sometimes maybe possibly a reason that he's not throwing the ball over the middle of the field. I honestly don't know if that's going to change. Maybe there'll be more of an emphasis on it during practice this week, and maybe that'll be part of the game plan. I hope so. I hope it's part of the script, because I think it's open there quite a bit. It's always open. There's been receivers there. So, when you say if there's going to be plays to the middle of the field, there's already plays to the middle of the field. It's just not being executed.
Right.
So, if it does come out different, what I honestly think it is the team playing under new spirit, rejuvenation, so to speak, right? They got a fresh thing. They just took off the stench. Well, that was Matt Canada. They took a shower and now they feel good. When you feel dirty and you just take a shower and you feel good afterwards, you feel good, you play good. And I think they're going to play at the top of their level. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Pittsburgh Steelers come out and do something, put up 25 points or something like that. Let's see if it stays consistent. That's going to be my concern.
Right.
I'm gonna wipe the slate clean. This is a brand new season for me. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 0-0. Kenny Pickett is 0-0. No interceptions, no touchdowns, and let's just see what he does. And if it ends up being some of the same stuff like we mentioned before, that's when you have to ask those questions. Does he need to be replaced? And if he does well, then you can give him another year. Like I said, my biggest fear, man, is the whole Daniel Jones thing, is that he's eventually going to come around for 1 year and that's it. We're going to end up with paying him a lot of money and being a nightmare for a while.
Right. I understand that. I understand. Got to see how the rest of this year pans out. We'll see what happens. The Steelers still are in a position at 6-4. They still got 7 weeks left of football. Sunday's a big game in my book, and I think most people would think it's a big game. That spin the left has got to stop. Yes, it does. You can't be doing that in the NFL. You can do it in the ACC. You can't do it in the NFL. You're going to find yourself in buttload of trouble. If he didn't do that and he stood his ground, he had a wide open path to run for about 20 yards. So it is. I mean, it's. I don't know. And he sees it looking at the film himself, but it's something that has continued to happen. It's a habit that continues to happen, and nothing good comes out of it. Yes, Sean, every game is big. Yes, it is. I think just specifically right now, having the bad loss you had on Sunday and having another divisional game and having Matt Canada off the books, I think Sunday's going to tell a handful of things, I think. Cole doesn't help KP. He has to go. Yeah, and that's the thing. When they brought in Mason Cole, I think we all knew it was probably going to be a Band-Aid. I actually wanted Creed Humphrey instead of Freiermuth. That's who I was hoping they were going to take, but they didn't.
I wanted Humphrey over Najee.
Yeah,
in the first round.
In the first round, you could have. Center's going to be center. That they're 100% going to have a new center next year, and I think that that's a big thing. That's a big thing they got to do is add a new center. You have your left tackle with Broderick Jones. He's going to play left tackle next year, no question. I like Seumalo there. We've seen his improvement. We've seen James Daniels still be okay. Center's a big position to fill, so we'll see what draft they want to do. If we draft one, I want Van Prania. He's a good center for Georgia. He could go late in the first round. He could go in the second round. He could go earlier. Who knows? Things always change by then. But Daniel, what's the score prediction for Sunday?
I'm gonna say there's a couple of things here. One, the Cincinnati Bengals have had an extra 3 days to prepare for this game. They played on the Thursday night game. They're coming in with a little bit of an unknown at quarterback. Like I said, that has kind of not gone well for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense when they're facing a quarterback for the first time like this. Let me see. Where they don't have any tape beforehand. I'm going to go with. I hate to say it, man, but I think that the Bengals are going to win this game.
Think so?
And yeah, I mean the environment. Remember
Jake Browning, Jake Shiesty.
Remember it's another JB. Tomlin said that the environment had an impact on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Cleveland. When the hell has their environment ever affected the Steelers or the quarterback or the offense?
That's
right. It is. And now we're going into, Cincinnati, which I don't know, man, the Browns had a backup quarterback, and their fans were rocking. So I would imagine that'd probably be the same thing here in Cincinnati. I'm going to say they win 16-13 in another close game. And
Yawn fest. I'll be making sure to take a fat nap at 1:00. Holy cow, that would be awful. Jeez, show some kind of life or something after that performance on Sunday. If they come back out flat like they did last Sunday and they do not have any type of bounce back, I mean, that's awful. Like, I really might think that this is the downfall.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they lose Sunday, I don't think this team makes the playoffs. I don't have any faith in them to be able to rewrite the ship. If they lose Sunday and come out flat and lose to another backup quarterback, I don't. It's over. It's over. Yeah, they'll be 6-5 and anything can happen, but I don't know how you have any faith in the team to be able to go in their next 6 games and finish 4-2. Like, really? And go 10-7? I think it's hard to have faith and do that and knowing you have to go to Seattle and possibly Baltimore if they're playing for a number 1 seed. Yeah, I don't. It's hard to see that. Steelers Freak, we appreciate you, man, tuning in. It's good to see you every week. Thank you for your insight, your thoughts, as well. Afton, appreciate you guys. You guys have a good Thanksgiving yourselves. I think the Steelers win this game. Claudia says 24-13 Bengals. I think the Steelers win this game on Sunday. I think that they're going to bounce back in a little bit. I don't think I don't think it's going to be a pretty game. We haven't had that all year. I don't think that we're going to see that again. Or not again. I don't think that we're really going to see that too much on Sunday, but I think they bounce back in the way of, I think we see a little bit of some type of production offensively. Jalen Warren's got to get more touches. We all know that. Pat Frymuth's got to get the ball in his hands. You got to get the ball in George Pickens' hands, Deontay's hands. You got to get the ball in your playmakers' hands. We all know this. But I think we'll see a little bit of a boost in the sense of that freshness, that clean slate, a little bit of rejuvenation. There's still problems there. There's still going to be things that we see that still are an issue, but I think that we'll see a little bit more than what we've seen recently, and a little bit more of explosiveness, a play here, a play there that we haven't seen the last few weeks, and I think that will be enough to get the job done against the Bengals. Now, they have Jamar Chase. They could have T. Higgins back. I'm not sure if he's going to play or not, if he's going to be back. Joe Mixon, obviously, is there. The Bengals got weapons. We know that. But Jake Browning is a backup quarterback at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure he's a rookie quarterback, isn't he?
Nah, he's just never played before, but he's like 28. Okay. I think it's like his first year.
Okay.
So, dude, if this guy outperforms Kenny, like,
right. Yeah.
I will.
It's bad. And Cincinnati's defense is not good. Their offensive line's not good. Their defense is not good. So you have to be able to find some type of rhythm and groove on offense to be able to exploit that weakness that the Bengals have struggled all year long. Their secondary sucks. I don't know if Trey Hendrickson's going to play or not because he got injured last Thursday. I have not looked at their injury report, but their defense has struggled mightily. It is not nearly as good as it was last year. So this is a game for the Steelers to not just bounce back, but this is a game to rewrite the ship. This is a game to make some plays that you haven't been making. This is a game to get the ball in Georgia's hands and Fryermuth's hands that have not had the ball, and to show some kind of life and to show some type of jump forward. You have the dead weight of Matt Canada off your back. Are we going to see that kind of fruition Sunday or not? I think we'll see a little bit of something, not a ton, but a little something that you can say, okay, like maybe they might be able to find a rhythm or something going. You know what I mean? It's not going to be crazy. They're not going to be scoring all these points, but at least some type of rhythm going. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go Steelers win 20-16. That's what we'll go with.
Good deal. And it's very well possible, the Steelers go in there, take the dub, show the Bengals that they still got them. But, you got some concerns there. I mean, you have, like you mentioned, Chase, you have Higgins, and what you also have is the Steelers are out of their coverage of linebackers in the middle. And I don't know if Minka's going to play. And if he doesn't, you have Trent Thompson that's out there, who I think he played okay, but I haven't really broken down his tape.
That's something you want out there,
no.
multiple weeks. No.
Now that there's tape on him, I think they're going to know what his weaknesses are. He's a little bit aggressive, and he might fall for a couple of things or two. And so, I don't know, man. I don't like the matchup. I don't like it's on the road. This team has 10 days, to prepare for the Pittsburgh Steelers, a quarterback the Steelers have never seen before. And an offense that is, we're all rejoicing, Matt Canada's gone, but he knew Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett knew him. I'm pretty sure they were familiar with each other's families, things like that. He probably cares for the guy as his friend, and his friend just got fired. And I'm sure that there's probably a few people, maybe not everybody, but maybe a handful of people there in that locker room that feel the same way. And, how is that going to affect, those players? Like, is Kenny Pickett, is it going to, be in his head like, man, my play got this guy fired a couple of days before Thanksgiving? How does that weigh on the team as well?
Oh, I get that. I think that if you're at the professional level, though, you got to overcome that stuff, especially with the way Kenny's been playing. You can't let stuff like that bother you, man. If you're Kenny, you realize you have crap to lose right now. You have crap to lose right now, and you cannot be letting crap like that affect you mentally, or you're done. You are done next year. If you continue to play like garbage the rest of the year, and you are struggling mentally because Matt Canada's not on your field anymore. Meanwhile, you've had Mike Sullivan, who you can find in, and you have Eddie Faulkner, who's on your sideline every week. If you're 25 years old and you're a professional quarterback and you cannot adjust to not having your offensive coordinator, who really isn't that good anyway, that's a big issue. That is a big issue. And if you're not going to show anything these last 7 weeks, that's what I mean. Kenny's playing for next season. And he's got to realize that. And he's got to know that if he doesn't, which I'm sure he does. He knows the fan base does not like him right now. He knows the fan base is frustrated. He knows the organization is not happy. He's playing for next season. He's playing to be a starting quarterback next year. So there's a lot of pressure on him. There absolutely is. But I think they win.
I get it.
Yeah, I think they win, but I can see if they lose too. Because just like what Steeler Freak said, Bengals are 5-5. Yes, they're still playing in the sense of to win because they're 5-5, right? But they know that Jake Browning knows he's got nothing to lose because Joe Burrow's their quarterback, but he knows that he's got nothing to lose, but he's also playing for a career himself. And he actually has really top tier guys to throw the ball to.
Yeah.
Proven guys. He does. So the Steelers defense is going to have their hands cut out with these wide receivers. If T. Higgins doesn't play, that's big, but they're going to have their hands cut out. But that's the thing. The Steelers offense needs to be better than the Cincinnati Bengals offense. Simple as that. If they're going to win this game, the Steelers offense has to be better. And that's why I think this game's a big game. I really do. So if they lose, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to pout. I'm just going to shrug my shoulders and say, you know what, this just might be it. And this is just where they're at. We'll see them again next year, But if they win and we see some improvement, that's definitely going to encourage a lot of people. We'll see if they can keep a consistency, keep a rhythm. That's definitely possible. But it's a winnable game. It's a game they have to win. So, and there's things on the line here, in my opinion. So,
No, 100%.
But I don't know. But yeah, guys, Daniel and I, we're going to end it there. Daniel and I gave our score predictions. We appreciate each and every one of you tuning in for this hour 45 that Daniel's got. I think it's the longest show Daniel and I have done, but there's been a lot to talk about, a lot of conversation. We knew it was going to be a longer one. So thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for your thoughts, your comments in the comment section. Sean Downey says 23-17 Steelers. Let's hope that is the reality. KP's play affects all others. No more University of Pitt. This is the NFL. Absolutely is. Completely different ball game. We'll see what happens, though. We'll see what happens. It's going to be fascinating. There's with everything going into this game. I think it's one of their biggest games of the season, considering everything that has happened, everything that's going on, and how bad Sunday was. So we'll see what happens. But Daniel, is a good show. Good doing another show with you. We'll be back on Daniel's channel next week to talk about the outcome of this game. But to all you guys, thank you again for your support, tuning in, your comments. Have a good Thanksgiving, everybody. Be safe if you're on the road traveling, and we will see you next week.